Hey everybody, we are back with Hacker Summer Camp 101, and today we have Rich from the Pinball group with us.
Hey, Nicole, thank you for having me on today. It's great
I
to be
see
here.
you got the thematic background going on behind you. Uh,
Yeah, I don't just do it at DEF CON. I'm full time on pinball in one way or another. I love it.
you're just sharing your passion with the DEF CON community, but it's a passion all year round.
It is. It is. And it's a passion I've shared with the DEF CON community since my first DEF CON back in 2005 ish. We went to the Pinball Hall of Fame in Vegas, and, we always lamented, where can we go and not waste money gambling or drinking? Where can we go and have a good time and spend quarters? And that was the place to go. It was the Pinball Hall of Fame.
So, how did it transition from everyone going to go visit the Pinball Hall of Fame to actually being at DEF CON itself?
Well, that's a pretty good story. I came into it was a few years ago. I had this idea. I was like, well, we're on the cusp of IoT pinball machines, and I've been I was a world ranked, or I still am a world ranked pinball player. So I play the sport competitively, and there's a lot of people that are in IT and a lot of people in the security community that play pinball too. And I said, wait a minute, these are soon to be IoT, so there might be a vulnerability here. And there turns out when they became IoT pinball machines, there were a lot of vulnerabilities. And at ShmooCon, not this past year, or not this year, but last year, I gave a talk on finding a vulnerability and exploiting it in a pinball machine that could impact competitive play. I could remotely cause the flippers to flip and events to occur in a game. And we play games in major tournaments that could be a six-figure dollar value. So I explained that threat model to the company, and I talked about this entire scenario at ShmooCon. And it was like every other vulnerability disclosure people in our community have done, where you don't receive any response. Suddenly, the feature is gone from the game, and it didn't turn out quite the way I thought it would. But ultimately, it caught the attention of the largest pinball manufacturer in the world, and Stern Pinball. And I knew some people there, of course, because I played competitive pinball. But I reached out to their marketing team. I said, wouldn't it be great for you all to bring pinball to DEF CON? And my goal was to not have to leave DEF CON to have access to pinball. It's that simple. And to make pinball better and make it more secure, to sort of help it enter into the future in the right way. So I had this dream. I sort of visualized this sequence happening years before it did. And I got lucky enough to find some vulnerabilities pretty easily, as many of us can do, and to get accepted at ShmooCon, and that got some attention. And I made a pitch deck for Stern. It looked like, I don't know if the Tesla's probably not the best example right now, but it looked like bringing Teslas or smart vehicles to DEF CON. And I said, it's a good business move. Plus, a lot of people in our community just love the game. Introducing them to the game, sharing our passion for the game is what you want to do here. I think you'll have a better response than you did maybe at CES or one of these other less hackerish conferences. And we did. And people loved it, and I'm hoping we'll be back again this year. I expect we will.
And for anybody who doesn't know, each year DEF CON basically does a call for content and everyone kind of resubmits. So just because you've been there before does not mean that you will be there again. Hopefully, fingers crossed, with the space that they have, that is a possibility. But speaking of being at DEF CON again, if you are coming back again this year, what's kind of your plan for this year? Do you want to do something similar to what you did last year, or would you like to do something else? And what does that really look like for someone attending?
So last year, DEF CON contests are never as simple as a pinball high score contest. There's always layers to the contest. There's things that have been dropped in the forums or on social media or on a GitHub somewhere. If you look carefully, you'll find those hints. And last year we hit a few hints, and we also arranged the code and the settings of the games in a different way. So if you looked very carefully, you could hack your way into the finals. So we had somebody, and I was so glad it was somebody working in another village that won the contest, but he was one of the first people to approach us, and he said, I think there's something wrong with one of these games. It might not be fair. I'm like, we said, you found something great. That's great. Why don't you use it as an advantage? And still the best players in pinball that came out of the woodwork at DEF CON had a chance of making the finals. The finals were open competition. There was no way to sort of cheat your way in, but there was an entry point that someone found. And that's the layer within the layer, or within the game within the game. And if you did your homework, you could find it, or if you worked really hard during the event, you could find your way in. And I was when you set something up and no one finds it, you don't feel so good, especially at your first year. But when somebody does, and this person won the overall contest based on their skill as well, so I was like, yes. And
it worked out perfectly.
It did. We also combined. We made a special digital asset on the Stern Insider Connected platform. It's a mobile application, but you could print a QR code on a piece of paper and bring it with you if you didn't want to bring your phone, or you could use not your real data to register for the app. There's lots of ways to maintain your privacy. I explained this when I brought the contest too, because that's an important element for all of us. And you collect these badges, and it was a one-time badge that less than 300 people collected, and now they have it forever. And giving things like that, and setting goals that have you problem solve, working with other villages too. So I found other villages for a youth CTF, and for the game hacking village, they hit a flag in one of our games, and people were pulling their hair out, and only 2 or 3 people found that flag by the end. And we were, the last hours, the last day, they're like, please tell us. It was so much fun.
So for anybody who is thinking about participating in any contest, but it sounds like especially this contest, remember that this is a hacker event. The rules that you assume are there are not necessarily always there, i.e., in this case, finding ways to get into different rounds without playing pinball was valid. So, just because there's a contest and you think you have to go a certain way, like, feel free to try a different way, or if you're not sure if you're allowed, ask. And a lot of times the volunteers will, tell you, like, wink, wink, nudge, nudge, like, there's nothing against that type thing.
We were pretty careful with our ground rules of do not break into the equipment or try to stick anything into our network.
So yeah, there are rules usually, read them. But if you have an idea, you can always check with volunteers, and they'll shove you the right direction. Now, if I'm brand new to hacking, so I'm a noob, would this be something that I could still participate in? Because it sounds like there's kind of a little bit of technical stuff plus pinball stuff. Could I still give it a try? And if I did, would I have to bring any equipment with me?
You could walk in just out of the crowd anywhere and step up and play a game. You could choose to have yourself. We did an international. There's a sanctioning body for pinball, believe it or not. The IFPA, the International Flipper Pinball Association. And you collect Whopper points, World Pinball Ranking points. So it was a sanctioned tournament. So we had some really interesting names in there that were obviously not real names, but if you wanted your real name, or you wanted to build yourself, you want to mess up your search results with some high level pinball rankings, you could do that. And you could walk up off the street with no skill and find that, wait a minute, this is a kinetic puzzle. It's a whole world underneath this glass. And you probably will fall in love with it if you like solving puzzles. I found that, we had such a positive response from the community. I couldn't believe I didn't try to do this sooner. Should have tried it 10 years ago. So it worked really well, and people loved it. A lot of people that brought their kids too came up and said, thank you so much for bringing this. This is great for us. We got to do something, and they were really into the challenge. So, that was really, really satisfying for me.
It sounds like kids are kind of encouraged to play too. Obviously, if you are a younger kid, your parent or whomever is your guardian should be with you, but
Yes.
sounds like totally valid to play as well.
Yeah, yeah, and pinball's been around, since the 1940s. So we had people of all ages come out there, and play with us, and I met people, some very famous folks from CDC, have received their challenge coin, and we talked about our pinball collections, and I was, like minds like to game, and busy minds like to game too. So
Yeah,
it was nice to
it's
see all
active.
ranges.
There's a puzzle, and but at the same time, it's not the puzzle maybe that you've had to chew on all day. So.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think you told us a little bit about how you kind of came about to be an event at DEF CON, but if you want to kind of give any more insight to anyone who's interested in either maybe submitting a contest or just being in your contest, what kind of is involved with being a contest? Is it that, you have to have this entire plan and then you have to start on day one and kind of like scavenger hunt, like you've got to play every single day? Or is this something that, you could do just at a couple scheduled times?
For me, I treated this like, I help run B-Sides Nova. So the B-Sides in Northern Virginia, Washington, D.C. area. So I've got, over the last several years, a lot of experience doing different roles and assisting the team and running the day-to-day along with a large team. So, that helped. And having been part of the community and learned so much as part of this community and made my whole career from it, I wanted to give back too, and share something I love. So I really put my heart into it. I don't know how long my proposal was, but it was many, many pages. And I definitely started the year before in beginning to, start my reach out. I mean, the ShmooCon talk was part of my plan to get to DEF CON, is how elaborate of a plan that I had. People probably don't need to have that elaborate of a plan, but I knew I needed some pretty serious financial backing to be able to bring those games. I can't ship across the country this many games. You need you need someone to help you, or a different group of people to help you. So the finances of what you're trying to do need to be very carefully planned. The logistics, planning, shipping something from Chicago to California in a truck to DEF CON, and I had stats on the weight. It was in the thousands and thousands of pounds of our setup. So our setup was probably, it wasn't the heaviest at DEF CON, but definitely you have a lot of people that are tracking their stats, and I was like 3 or 4.
I bet Car Village
Oh yeah,
definitely,
yeah. That
yeah.
the truck, and then DARPA's setup was probably pretty. I think it was DARPA's setup that was pretty heavy.
He had a very fancy setup this year, yeah.
Yeah. So, but it was. I really, I really put my heart into it because it's my passion. It's two of my passions: cybersecurity and pinball. You know, so for me, and you can't do it by yourself. You need to find a team of people that have close to, if not equal to passion as you, and say, please help me do this. I know you're giving up your con to run this, and it's your chance to give back. And
Which
I found a
is,
few of those.
speaking of volunteers, is that something, if you get accepted this year, are you seeking volunteers, sponsors? If somebody was interested, should they like find you on the forums or somewhere else? Like, how did they get involved?
Um, you can find me on LinkedIn, and that'll be funny for those that saw my DEF CON talk a long time ago. But yeah, the DEF CON forums, you can find me there. There were a bunch of people that spoke to me and I developed rapport with last year, some that I've known from years past. And, I do encourage them to reach out. I'm hoping I bring back the same core team, because now we know how to set up the security of our network and do all these things and monitor it. And fix the games. You have to have pinball repair skills to run this village too. So there's a little bit of you know a level that you have to be at in order to work this village, but everyone can learn. So it's possible.
So sounds like reach out on the forums if you're really into it, or if maybe you want to help support it in some way. Uh, and I know running my own events, that it takes a village to run a village, is what I generally say.
Definitely.
Now, obviously, you are finding all the people who are equally passionate about pinball as you via the village. Do you have any kind of meetup or Discord or other thing that happens at other events or throughout the year other than at DEF CON, or is it right now just DEF CON / a little bit of online chit chat in the forums?
Um, Besides Nova, we do the same thing, but smaller scale. And it's, my own games. It's not sponsored by any particular company. So there's a wider variation of games and possibilities. So we definitely are always open to doing things there. We had our own video game last year for B-Sides, and it was great. Maybe not as cool as the one at DEF CON, but there was less controversy.
There's got to be controversy every year on something.
Of
So,
course. That's what makes it fun.
and you mentioned like people that participated got or were able to potentially get a special badge. Is there any swag that you sell, or is all your swag earned by participating in the contest itself?
Yeah, we don't sell anything. It's all earned by participation. We gave a lot of stuff away just at random. We gave things away to the winners. We gave things away to people that found things that maybe they weren't supposed to find or were lucky enough to find. So we had it all covered. And the Insider Connected, basically the digital asset and digital badge. If you're a pinball player or you think you might become one and you have that, it's pretty cool because you can only get it there that one time. And we're going to do another one this year if we get accepted. So we'll have many layers of fun and things to give away. But the best thing we're giving you is the ability to play pinball at DEF CON.
Or it sounds like it's besides Nova. So if you can't travel all the way over to the West Coast for whatever reason, you've got options on either coast.
Yes, you do. So join us there too. And, we'd love to have you. And as everyone knows, I love to talk about pinball. All aspects.
See. Other things I've got on here is if somebody wants to keep up with, are you accepted, are you not, is there a website or a social media or something they should be keeping an eye on so they know, like, hey, I'm coming this year, you guys are accepted and I can go do the thing. And then what would be like the URLs or whatever for those?
So I own pinballvulnerabilities.com, and I was going to set that up as an after action at ShmooCon. Maybe this will be the catalyst that will get my laziness in order, and I'll use that. Socials are so fractured now, understandably so, that I don't want to pick one at the moment. It's like picking a side or something. So we'll go with LinkedIn. That's a safe one.
Honestly, we've been updating like our website and the forums, and that's
what I'll do for sure. And anyone that messaged me on the forums, I responded to pretty quickly until we got to that window of a couple weeks before DEF CON where I'm sweating or pulling my hair out, depending on what's not going perfectly.
And this now gets into kind of the crazy fun part of this is if you wanted to tell either like a story or an experience from this past year that kind of like encapsulated either the most interesting thing or the most typical experience, just so somebody could kind of get in the mind of like what might happen if I participated in this, like tell us one of the coolest things that happened.
So I have several of these stories. One of my favorite games, and it's here in the room, but it's on the side, so you can't see it, is Twilight Zone. And there was, a guy that was playing, and he said, "Hey, I'm a network engineer, and you might know some of my work." And he helped program Twilight Zone, one of my favorite all-time games. And he's there, and then later, we talked a little bit about our history in the late '80s and early '90s, and I said, "Hey, this individual over here from CDC, you might like to meet him." And we all love pinball. So we're sitting there, and that I met somebody. There was somebody from the Legion of Doom there too. So I'm sitting here with a designer from the greatest era of pinball, the 1990s, my favorite hacking groups of the late 80s, and we're all talking about pinball. And I just, it was just a surreal moment for me. And we all exchanged coins and things too. We had to challenge coin for the pinball group, and I got a CDC challenge coin. I was just like, this is unbelievable. This is a I can't believe I get to take this home, and I'm just doing what I love, and we all like the same stuff. So that was good. And then the individual that won the tournament too. He was working in another village. And he kept coming in between his shifts and figured all this stuff out, and just kept working the problem, and ended up winning the contest. So I think, and he won it based on skill, not based on hackery. But it was very, very satisfying. And when somebody puts the effort in, whether it's running DEF CON, running a village, just doing a little bit of volunteering, always say thank you. Even if it's a goon and they're yelling at you, thank you. I'm gonna listen. And people saying thank you for the work that we put in, it energizes us, and it energized our team. So we felt really, really positive about it.
Yeah, and that is something definitely keep in mind. The people running the villages are not paid to be there. It is definitely something they are doing usually out of their own pocket. They'll fly themselves out, and so they're doing it because they're really into it. So if you enjoy the village, like, sharing it, that definitely is what makes it worthwhile for contests, for villages, for the meetups. And I think, yeah, with that, I guess any last pitch, if somebody is either new to pinball or new to DEF CON itself, why swinging by to at least see if this is their cup of tea should be on their list of things to do as they, are comparing and contrasting all the 50 million things going on.
If you like solving puzzles, this is the place for you. If you like something analog that you can feel and socialize around, pinball's your thing. The code base, the rule sets of pinball are available for every pinball machine. They're printed publicly. Stern or any of the manufacturers do. You can gain an edge in understanding the game before you arrive. And so that's why we were kind of quiet about what games are we bringing. But if you start playing, you're going to love it. I think just it's a door that is being opened to the security community, maybe more, but pinball's gotten bigger again. And it's probably part of the reason I was able to pull this off. But give it a try, and you'll find that you'll enjoy it.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, and I will keep my fingers crossed that you're accepted this year when the call for content goes out.
Thanks, Nicole. Thanks again for having me on today. It's great.